So after doing a video on how to maximize your DPS within Sunken Temple, I thought I'd do a video just showing a retribution point of view of getting 99 passes on all of the fights. So starting off with Atal'alarion, and to be honest with you, on this video I could have got more DPS than what I actually got, because if my dumbass just realised that the boss moved forward a couple of steps right here, then I would have been auto-attacking for a couple more seconds than I was already. But the main aim of the game with this fight is such a short fight, you just want to make sure you don't get hit by Demolishing Smash if your DPS isn't high enough. If you're a paladin you can just bubble through it, and if you're not a paladin you can use a Lip, Limited Invulnerability Potion, which I went through on my Maximized DPS video. But trinkets are really good for this fight, like on-use active trinkets, like the 5% haste trinket from Gnomeregan for example. I use it on this fight, it's very good for short fights, you want to be using it for something like this. So moving on to a 99 that I got for Festering Rotslime. Now this one's a bit weird because most of the passes that I was getting on this boss was actually tank passes, not DPS passes. But this is one of the weeks where I actually wasn't, getting most of the threat on the boss, and the tank actually got aggro from about 60% of the boss's health onwards. So I didn't have the majority of the threat, which is nice because I actually managed to get my first 99 DPS pass on this boss because I wasn't tanking obviously. And one big thing that I have noticed from this boss is, since putting out the maximized DPS video, when you're now inside the boss you get a debuff called Devour. You take a bit of damage and it reduces your damage dealt by about 90%. As a paladin, if you go inside you can bubble this off. As you can see here, I've gone inside. You'll stay inside of the boss, but you can bubble off the debuff. The debuff itself completely goes, so it's absolutely fine. There's no need to worry. You'll take a bit of damage while you're still inside, but your damage output will still be very good. Moving on to the sort of council fight from Sunken Temple, which is Atal'ai Defenders. What you're seeing here is one of the older 99 passes that I have on this encounter, but it's still the highest DPS 99 pass I have, so that's why I chose to show it. If I'm honest, this is the fight that I like the least from Sunken Temple. It's just overall pretty annoying, especially as a class that is melee without any kind of gap closing ability or movement speed outside of using a swiftness potion. I know you can kind of look up the fight beforehand to know which boss is going to come out in which order, but in all honesty I've gotten a few 99s on this encounter, so I'm happy with that and won't really bother min-maxing this fight that much because it's such a snooze fest as an encounter. I'd also be interested, let me know what your favourite or least favourite encounter is. I wouldn't be too surprised if this exact encounter isn't exactly a fan favourite either. Moving on to a fight that I like much more, which is Dreamscythe Weaver. I'm still not sure when the best time to use automatic crowd pummeler is honestly on this fight, so I just still use it at the start. Just like in my maximized DPS video, snowballs are still absolutely goated on this fight. Phase 1 and Phase 2, where you fight one dragon at a time, you can use it instantly after the breath, and you'll see on Phase 3, using it after the second breath works like a charm to have high uptime. And if you want to be hitting them 99s like in this clip, then snowballs as a melee, especially without a gap closer, it will work wonders. We actually still 2-tank this fight as we're more on the side of a casual guild, and one of our tanks actually got knocked down the hole, so we lost Wind Fury for group 1. I'm just thankful it wasn't my group, so be careful of that hole and just use snowballs and you won't ever get knocked into the hole. This is actually one of the fights that I like the most out of Sunken Temple, probably just because of the snowball tech, because I assume it would just be a nightmare without it as a rep paladin, but it adds a little bit of nuance, so I kinda like it. This 99 on the Jammal fight was one of the weeks where Ogom was the second guy to kill. So it's actually the order which is worse, as you'll need to use a FAP or a bubble to not get stunned from the Hammer of Justice in Phase 2. But I've gotten a 99 on both variations of the fight, but again this is the one where I've actually got higher DPS, so that's why I'm showing this one. This encounter's alright I guess. One thing that I always mess up on and I keep forgetting to sort out is a weak aura for my Librams. It's technically, as a paladin, all 3 of your Librams Abyss depending on the encounter, and sometimes I've got the dragon Libram on for this fight instead of the undead one, and sometimes I've got the undead one on for the dragon fights. So I'll probably make a weak aura for it at some point, but at the moment I just keep on forgetting. I guess in terms of actually trying to get yourself a 99, the best one to fight second would be Jammal and not Ogom, just because there's less to deal with. All you need to do is purge or dispel his power ward shield, and it's pretty much near 100% uptime outside of just dipping out of the fear if you're melee. I know there's probably a near 100% uptime for Ogom as well if everyone just uses a free action potion, but unless you're in a really organised raid setting, it probably won't happen where everyone's going to use it. Onto Morphaz and Hazzas, I only actually have a single 99 on this boss, as for quite a while I was stuck on 98 passes because we were doing the fight properly with the actual mechanics. But these days we just blast through the boss until the ads spawn, We all ignore the ads, everyone gets sent down and we kill the boss before his one-shot mechanic. And honestly, it's probably the only way you're going to get a 99 pass on this fight these days. So if you want to aim for 99 passes, that's what I suggest you do. I don't mind this fight really, there isn't much going on because the mechanic gets skipped I guess. But you get to see some big numbers while you're down below at least. And if you're wondering, the DPS down below while you do increased damage, on the logs for your actual ranking it gets normalised to 100% damage. So if your raid has enough DPS to down the boss without cooldowns, you should probably use your cooldowns at the start of the fight, lining up with any procs that you might have. Shade of Eranikus. I've got a few 99s on this boss, and the most recent one I got is the most DPS I've got on the fight also. It's a decent fight, you know, there isn't a whole lot to do as a melee DPS really other than kind of slap the boss or the ads if you need to attack the ads. In terms of what actually counts to your parts for this fight, if you're interested, the boss himself and the two big lumbering dudes that spawn when Eranikus goes for a nap. All the little whelps and the dragonkins that spawn later on don't actually count towards a DPS for your pass, though just like I said in the maximise your DPS video, if your raid is still struggling here then be a good sport and help out with killing them. If you're a paladin, you can completely skip the part where you need to jump in the fog to negate his one-shot ability by using bubble. So keep your uptime high, and when he starts casting it, use bubble right at the end and then clear bubble off. I also like to dance a little bit later on into the fight when the acid rain starts to drop, as generally it hurts quite a lot, so just move from side to side of the boss to stop yourself from taking too much damage. Just make sure when you are moving through the boss, you're not moving behind the boss because you can get tail swiped and that will absolutely ruin your uptime. Lastly, we have Avatar of Hakkar, which is another fight just like Atal'ai Defenders that I'm not too fond of. The fight feels like it drags on for a bit too long despite not much going on. Well, the fight kind of feels like there's a lot going on, but in reality there isn't a whole lot going on, if that makes sense. It's also just way too much RNG for my liking. If you want to pass or do well, you can suffer just from having bad RNG and subsequently not doing very good on the fight. You can have melee camps where you stack on the left of the boss and any melee who get blood run to the right. Kind of similar to how melee used to deal with Algalon in Wrath of the Lich King, but then when he drains blood you just run around behind the tank to get the debuff dropped off. I've got a few 99s on this fight, just make sure that the fears are interrupted during phase 1. Hopefully there isn't too many curses that get spread, like we tend to have quite a lot of them spread in our raids to be honest. But other than that, if you're a paladin, save bubble so you can skip at least one of the blood mechanics if you get it. Quick note for paladins, Blessing of Protection doesn't clear the blood, bubble's the only one that actually works for it. And with that, you saw a Retribution POV getting a 99 pass for each boss in Sunken Temple. I hope you've enjoyed the video, let me know what your favourite and least favourite bosses are, and thank you for watching.